Throughout the week of December 21st through 26, 2022, a major winter storm impacted much of the central U.S. and the Northeast. While most of the U.S. Midwest dealt with severe cold as the primary risk, with a cold air mass that reached all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico, much of the Great Lakes dealt with blizzard conditions for several days, beginning on the 23rd and going through the 25th. Areas on the leeward side of the lakes, that's the east, Buffalo especially, were crippled by a continuous lake effect snow band that stayed steady for several days along with extremely strong winds. It brought a rare Category 4 or crippling winter storm and one of the strongest in this area in years. In terms of the meteorological breakdown, all weather models picked up on its possible occurrence at least 5 days out and remained adamant the entire time about a very strong system forming. A very strong negatively tilted trough was projected to occlude over the Great Lakes and with it bring strong winds, heavy snow, very low pressure drops, severe cold and wind chill temperatures, and a prolonged lake effect snowfall for areas east of the still warm and unfrozen Great Lakes. At peak intensity, the storm reached the lowest pressure of 963 millibars, which is usually associated with hurricane tier pressure drops. The occluding and slow to eject low also allowed for a pattern of west-southwest winds and frigid temperatures to remain in place for days, which provided perfect conditions for lake effect snow conditions to bury areas east of the lakes, which is Kingston, Ontario, Buffalo, New York, the Lake Erie shoreline, and areas east of Lake Huron. Buffalo in particular received up to 50 inches of snow when the storm was all said and done several days later. Buffalo Airport was closed for 5 days before flights could resume again. It was a generational storm for their region, and that's not a statement to be taken lightly given their history of notable lake effect snow events. Outside of the leeward side of the lakes, this storm was mostly associated with extreme temperature drops and sustained high winds rather than major snowfall, but the leeward side locations received all of the above. They didn't dodge any of those inclement weather situations. In terms of my encounter for this event, the event started effectively on the morning of the 23rd with the strong cold front passage. Temperatures dropped very rapidly. At Hamilton Airport, temperatures dropped from 0 degrees Celsius to negative 9 degrees Celsius in just 2 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It was above freezing in Buffalo at 7 a.m. It hit above 50 kilometers per hour and did not drop below this threshold until the night of the 24th, and heavy snow bands, although incremental, followed throughout the entire day on the 23rd into the night. For me personally, I'm closest to the Hamilton Airport's weather station of all the major cities around, so I used their observations as a proxy. Hamilton Station recorded the worst conditions in the 1 p.m. through 4 p.m. time frame, where minus 16 degrees Celsius temperatures, sustained 65 kilometer an hour winds with gusts above 90 kilometer an hour on both the 23rd and 24th occurred. A minus 31 degree wind chill was in place, and near zero visibility was occurring during this 1 p.m. through 4 p.m. time frame. It was at its worst in this phase. Areas east of Hamilton, which includes the city of St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and especially Port Colborne, which topped out in the area with a wind gust recorded over 120 kilometers an hour, recorded stronger sustained winds than that of Hamilton, which I think included my area, even though I couldn't get an exact wind gust. While winds stayed high throughout Christmas Day, snowfall began to yield on the morning of the 24th in my region. Dangerous cold, low visibility due to blowing snow would remain in place for several days following, however. We didn't sustain nearly the worst of the conditions that the Great Lakes towns did, but most of the day on the 23rd presented those dangerous cold blizzard conditions. To summarize, it was one of the strongest winter storms, especially in terms of both wind speed and duration, to hit my region in years. I'm surrounded by forests, and I could hear the forest roaring for 3 days consecutively until the low finally ejected out of our region after Christmas Day. It was definitely one to remember. Thanks for watching.